Snow fell softly on the small village of Winter's Hollow, blanketing the rooftops and streets in a pristine layer of white. Covering the streets in a blanket of white, the entire village seemed to be wrapped in a serene, silent embrace. The cobbled roads glistened in the lamplight as the townsfolk bustled about, finishing their last-minute Christmas preparations. The air was filled with the scent of pine and the sound of carolers singing festive tunes. The air was thick with cheer. But in the shadowed corners of the village stood something darker. Forgotten whispers about Old Man Thorn, the Toymaker who once brought wonder to Winter's Hollow. His toys were said to be magical, bringing joy to every child who received them. No one spoke of him anymore. His name had become a ghostly echo, a memory that the villagers preferred to forget. Some claimed he had been driven mad. They said he was tormented by the loss of his family. Others said he disappeared one Christmas Eve after a betrayal no one would explain. It was a night shrouded in mystery and sorrow. His shop, Thorn's Trinkets and Toys, had been boarded up for years, its broken windows staring like dead eyes. The once vibrant place now stood as a haunting reminder of the past. But to children like Tommy, Lila, and Sam, it was irresistible. They were drawn to the mystery, their imaginations running wild with stories of what might lie inside. The three friends stood at the edge of the alley, staring at the decrepit shop. It was Christmas Eve, and the streets were empty, everyone home, tucked safely by their fires. But Tommy, ever curious, had heard stories that treasures still lay within Thorn's shop, gathering dust. "Come on, let's go inside," Tommy commanded. "Imagine the toys we'll find. No one will miss them. What if it's haunted?" Sam said, "Ghosts don't exist, dummy." "Let's go," Lila yelled. With that, they slipped through a loose board in the back. The air was thick with dust and decay, a testament to the years of neglect that had befallen this once lively place. The shop smelled of mildew and cobwebs hung like curtains, swaying gently with the slightest breeze that managed to sneak in through the cracks. The shelves, though splintered and rotting, were lined with toys. Dolls with cracked porcelain faces, jack-in-the-boxes frozen mid-laugh, and marionettes dangling lifelessly on tangled strings. Each toy seemed to hold a story, a memory of a time when they brought joy to children. The marionettes, with their painted smiles and glassy eyes, seemed to watch the children as they explored, their strings twisted and knotted from years of disuse. "It's creepy in here," Sam said. The atmosphere was heavy, almost suffocating, as if the shop itself was aware of their presence. "Look at this. It's still perfect." Tommy's voice echoed in the silence, breaking the eerie stillness for a moment. Tommy's eyes sparkled as he grabbed an old toy soldier, its paint still vibrant despite the dust. It was as if the toy had been waiting for him all these years. Lila wandered to a corner where a workbench sat beneath a broken window. The light that filtered through cast eerie shadows on the floor. Tools lay scattered, and half-finished toys seemed abandoned mid-creation, as if the Toymaker had left in a hurry, never to return. One in particular caught her eye, a wooden nutcracker, painted red and black, its teeth bared in a wicked grin. "It's watching me," she said. She shivered, feeling a chill run down her spine. "Guys, did that doll move?" Sam's voice was barely a whisper, filled with a mix of fear and curiosity. On a nearby shelf, a small porcelain doll, her eyes milky white, was no longer where she had been. "Don't be ridiculous," Tommy said, but even he couldn't hide the unease in his voice. But then the jack-in-the-box clicked, click, click, click. The sound was unnervingly loud in the quiet shop. The crank turned slowly on its own, creaking in the silence. Each turn seemed to echo the children's growing fear. "Sam, let's go, I don't like this." His voice was urgent, almost pleading. Suddenly, the box snapped open with a shriek, and a grotesque jester shot out, its painted smile stretching impossibly wide. The children screamed, their fear palpable. The toy clattered to the floor, but it didn't stop moving. It seemed to have a life of its own. Its little limbs twitched as it dragged itself forward, laughter echoing through the shop. The sound was haunting, sending chills down their spines. "Sam, let's get out of here." The children didn't need to be told twice. They bolted for the door, their hearts pounding in their chests. They ran for the door, but it slammed shut with a force that echoed through the room, sending shivers down their spines. All around them, toys began to stir, their movements subtle at first, like a gentle breeze rustling through leaves. The marionette strings twisted as if pulled by invisible hands, their wooden feet clattering as they leapt from their hooks, creating a cacophony of eerie sounds. The porcelain dolls' heads turned, their glassy eyes reflecting the dim light, and hollow giggles filled the room, echoing off the walls. From the darkness, a voice echoed, a deep, gravelly tone that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Did you come for a toy? I've made plenty. Just for you." The children froze, their eyes wide with terror, unable to move or speak. At the back of the shop, something moved, a shadowy figure emerging from the darkness, its movement slow and deliberate. A shadow stepped forward, slow and deliberate, its form becoming clearer with each step. It was him, Old Man Thorn, the man they had heard so many stories about, now standing before them, or what was left of him. His figure was gaunt and misshapen, his presence more terrifying than any tale they had heard. His hands were claw-like, stained with paint and something darker, something that sent a chill down their spines. His face was hidden beneath a cracked mask that resembled a doll's face, with hollow black eyes that seemed to pierce through the darkness. "You took my toys. Now! They'll take you!" he yelled. The toys swarmed, their movements synchronized, advancing menacingly towards the children. The Nutcracker snapped its wooden jaws as it lunged for Lila, its eyes gleaming with a sinister light. Tommy swung at the jester with the toy soldier, only for the soldier to turn against him, biting into his hand with a force that made him cry out in pain. Sam scrambled for the window, but a marionette wrapped its strings around his ankle, pulling him back into the shadows, his screams echoing through the room. Thorn watched, unmoving, as his creations did their work, a twisted smile playing on his lips. "Children never appreciate what I make." His voice was filled with a mix of sadness and anger, a reflection of his twisted mind. "But now you'll be part of my collection." His words hung in the air, a chilling promise of what was to come. The last thing Tommy saw before the darkness took him was the porcelain doll's face, its cracked lips smiling as it whispered, "Merry Christmas." The words echoed in his mind as everything went black. The next morning, the townsfolk awoke to fresh snow blanketing Winter's Hollow. But something was different. In the window of Thorn's toy shop, new toys were on display. A nutcracker with Lila's blonde hair, a toy soldier bearing Tommy's mischievous smile, and a marionette that looked disturbingly like Sam. The villagers whispered as they hurried past, but no one dared look too closely. The shop remained boarded up and the snow fell in silence. From inside, a faint sound echoed, a creak, a giggle, and the whisper of a Toymaker still at work. "Old Man Thorn, would you like to play?" As the day went on, groups of people started to gather in the town square, their breath misting in the cold winter air. Everyone felt the tension. Whispers about the strange things that happened the night before filled the air. "Did you see the new toys in Thorn's window?" one villager mumbled, his voice barely a whisper. "They look exactly like the children," another answered, their eyes wide with fright. An old woman, holding her shawl tightly around her, spoke up. "Old Man Thorn has always been odd, but this feels much worse. Could it be revenge?" The crowd shifted nervously, looking at each other with worry. "Revenge for what?" a young man asked, sounding a bit doubtful. The old woman shook her head. "I don't know, but I have a bad feeling. Something evil is happening here." As the whispers got louder, a feeling of dread filled the square. The once pretty village now seemed covered in a scary mystery. You could faintly hear a creak, a giggle, and the whisper of a Toymaker still working inside. The unsettling feeling stayed, a silent promise of more scary things to come.